and mention some of the fields that, or some of the topics that could be also for your interest. First of all, the topic which all of you knows is study cognitive science and linguistics in Germany. It's the first time we have such kind of webinar, and I will be as attentive and listening to speakers as you will be, because it really sounds super interesting. Here are our guests. We have two universities, University of Potsdam and Osnabrück. I will present all of them individually in a bit, but now bear with me for a few moments. First of all, who is behind today's session? It's my German University, which is Germany's largest database of English taught study programs, and the number of programs is increasing in a database as new programs are appearing, and then changes are also adjusted in case there are some more changes in program requirements or some kind of details. Now you see on a slide a kind of demo version of our study finder, which has much more filters, which are supposed to help you finding your desired study program, and then you don't have to browse through all the programs. You can adjust filters according to admission mode, according to your IELTS, TOEFL score, and much more. I suppose you already have used it because you know these programs that will be presented today. We also have lots of articles which are really interesting and also useful, and I really highly recommend checking them, because the articles are covering general topics that also might occur, or that you might have questions today. For example, scholarship, for example, visa. So these broader topics are very well covered in those articles. But in addition to that, we also have general webinars when we talk about such kind of broad topics, for example, Uni Assist, scholarship, visa. And then we have subject-specific webinars like today, when we have luckily guest speakers who are presenting their study programs to you, and even more happy to answer your questions live. So if I was at your place, I would use this option to really ask your questions, especially I hope that you're already in process of applying. So just use this opportunity. And then who is behind like my German University or the faces? Here you can see us, very friendly and international people who are happy to share things related to studying in Germany. We are very international, but we have all lived and studied in Germany, which means that there are different looks on the same topic from Germans and also expats. And this mixture will also help you to achieve your goals or start your semester in German. Now, much more about the study finder. And for example, if you want to filter for programs in cognitive science and in linguistics, in total, you will see 76 degree programs. And then you have lots of breakdowns for bachelor, master, of course, but then also, for example, English only options to filter with tuition fees, etc., etc. If you're new and don't know how it feels like studying linguistics or cognitive science in Germany, and you just want to have a broader overview, for example, about tuition fees, application admission requirements, etc., etc., you can check our subject pages. In this case, there are two subject pages, individually for linguistics and cognitive science, and both of them provide overview of how it looks like studying these fields in Germany. One tip from our side is not to be guided by solar requirements. So not only rankings or city names matter. There are combination of different things. This is program structure. You should, as the one who has studied in Germany, I advise you to closely check the programs, even the syllabi, curriculums, everything is available always on program pages. And this way you will make a more wise decision. But if you only think about, yeah, I want to study only in Berlin, then you might be missing some very great programs that are outside of the city. But of course, in Berlin, there are really great universities and cities, so I don't have anything about that. Just saying that you just need to combine and create your own criteria how you want to find the most suitable study program. Very briefly about the university landscape of Germany. In Germany, there are universities, which we have today as a guest speakers, but also universities of applied science. What's the main difference? right now we say that the main difference is on the focus. So at universities, it's more usually research and theory oriented, while the universities of applied science have more focus on practice and application. And just to be sure, I always also add that there might be some unique programs that are combining, for example, also practice in terms of university and vice versa. So it's up to a program to structure itself. Now, I want to also mention that when you are searching for programs, don't use or don't filter by program names. Because if you filter linguistics only, then, I mean, the program name, not the subject, then you will even miss today's program because it has international, experimental, and clinical linguistics. So even though it has linguistics, it's a more long name, and then the study finder filter might show you only the ones that have single name, master or bachelor in linguistics. And having said this, I would like to then present our first two guests, Professor Dr. 𝘱𝘢𝘳𝘵𝘪𝘏 and also 𝘱𝘢𝘪𝘵𝘩, who will be talking about master's level program in international experimental and clinical linguistics. On the left side, you can see quick facts about the program, which you don't have to pay attention to because it will be broadly taught or mentioned in a moment. And on the right side, then you can see your future university or potential future university on the map of Germany. With this, then I will stop sharing my screen and also mention that I will be sharing some links in chat. Don't try to copy them, just click on them if you want, the program links, info emails, and then you will also in parallel, if you want, check program details on the page. All right, then this virtual floor is yours. And thank you very much again for being here.
Hi, thank you very much. Thanks for the nice introduction. I will start. So my name is 𝘱𝘢𝘕𝘓. I will share my screen and talk about or start to talk about the ICL master program. And then 𝘱𝘢𝘪𝘵 will take over and say something more. So now it's not moving. Okay, so this is the overview of our short presentation. It will be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like this. What is ICL? Where will you be studying? In Potsdam. Where is Potsdam? What will you study? What are the career options? How to apply? And then other important information. And then at the very end, there's time for questions and answers. So the ICL stands for International Experimental and Clinical Linguistics. It's a master program. It's international. It's completely taught in English. So the majority of our students come from really all over the world. So the language of instruction is English. English is fine at the universities. But to be honest, knowledge of some German is recommended. So, right, if you want to survive in Germany, it's good that you have a little bit of German knowledge. Maybe 𝘱𝘢 can tell you more about this. It's experimental stays for that it's a research-oriented master. It's rather experimental, empirical, rather than theoretical. There's a lot of statistics and data analysis and data science that is sometimes a bit difficult for the students. At the other hand side, it's a great advantage because if you learn these things during your master, you have a high chance to get a PhD position or that you can work as a data analyst outside of academia. And it focuses on clinical, psycho, and neurolinguistics. So it's about research of language processing, language acquisition, about acquired and developmental disorders, something like developmental language disorders or acquired disorders, something like an aphasia after a stroke, for instance. And the students also learn about evidence-based practices and also about multilingualism or bilingualism. What is ICL not? And I would like to mention this here because some students come to us with the maybe misleading expectations. So the IECL program is not a program, a training of speech and language therapy. So you cannot work with this master degree, you cannot work as a speech and language therapist in Germany. So if you would like to become a speech and language therapist in Germany, you would need to study in another program that's called Bachelor of Patholinguistics, but this is unfortunately only taught in German. So for this, you would need to have a reasonable level in German. So IECL, no speech and language therapy options at the end. Who can study the program? So the prerequisites of the program is that you have a first academic degree. So for instance, a bachelor degree in experimental cognitive sciences or an academic degree as a speech and language therapist. And this degree needs to have at least 180 credit points. So CP stays for credit points, or sometimes it's also called ECTS, European Credit Point Transfer System, whatever. So you need to have this degree. Second, you need to have 6 credit points in statistics or quantitative research methods. So in statistics, you need to have 3 credit points. This is to circumvent that you really fall out of the program because of the heavy statistics load. So you need to have some background in statistics to cope with what we want you to do in the program. You also need 12 credit points in experimental cognitive sciences. So this is some classes in psycholinguistics, neurolinguistics, psychology, neuropsychology, developmental psychology, biopsychology, something like this. And in addition, you also need to have some background in linguistics, so some classes or courses in syntax, phonology, semantics, language processing, language acquisition, etc. And to enter the program, you need to have a proof of your English language skills if it's not your first language. And this must be at least at the C1 level of the European Framework of Reference. And we have links here in the presentation, and Nino will send them to all of you on Monday, if I understood this correctly. So then you can click on the links and you can find the information. So next slide, where will you be studying? You will study in Potsdam. Potsdam is a super nice city, very green, very lots of water, super nice. And it's very close to Berlin. So Berlin is the capital. It's very modern, fancy, crazy city, and Potsdam is just close by. So you can go by train in 30, 40 minutes to Berlin. So, and we have a very old campus with these nice buildings that you can see here in the middle, but we have also a more modern campus, that's Campus 𝘗𝘢. So this is where we are located, where you have more modern buildings, and we have a lot of labs and good infrastructure for doing research, and also for teaching, of course. And the program belongs to the Department of Linguistics. And if you see this presentation, or if you get the presentation, you can click on the link later on, and you can get an idea who is in this department, who is teaching in the department, who is doing research, and what we are doing in the department. So what will you study? So it's an intensive research-based training in experimental and clinical linguistics. And the students can deepen and expand the knowledge, the skills, and the proficiency that they typically gained in their bachelor program, or in the degree that they did before they come to our program. And here's a quick overview over the modules. So we have some introductory modules, including the statistical data analysis with 12 credits. Then we have foundational modules. These are 4 topics that you can, so to say, pick, or that you all have to do. And later on in the advanced modules, you can deepen your knowledge in one of these modules. And this is first language acquisition. So how do babies learn language, and how can we study this? Then it's language processing. How do adults process language? Evidence basis for language disorders. So what can we do to find out how we can best treat individuals with language disorders, children or adults? And the fourth topic is multilingualism and language acquisition and processing in multilingual context. And then in the third semester, you you kind of focus on one of these areas. Then there is also an internship, a mandatory internship in one of our labs where you do really participate in real research and you maybe collect data, and you will also write the master thesis at the end, where you typically also do an empirical thesis. So you will have a research question, you develop a research questions, hypotheses, and you will then work on the research questions in one of the labs and conduct real experiments, gather data and analyze the data. Okay, I will go on with the career options. So as I said, speech and language therapy is not a career option, but what you will do, because you will build on the theoretical and methodological and experimental foundations in the program, you can work or you can do a PhD. Afterwards. For this, of course, you need good grades, and especially the statistics grades are important here, and your statistics knowledge is important here. You can also work in research and teaching, and you could also work outside academia, so in fields that are related to language processing, language acquisition, multilingualism, diagnostics, data science, data analysis, or in startups who develop new devices, new eye tracking devices or whatever. And I think now I turn over to 𝘱𝘢.
Yes, thank you very much, Isabel. So in order to apply, you need the following documents. So of course, you need the proof that you finished a bachelor degree, or at least a proof that you are about to finish from your institution in your home country. And then as well, very important that we need to know the content and the structure of your academic training. So where it shows the transcript of records, and then we see which courses did you take. And this is very important that it is clear and readable. And if it is in a foreign language, if it is not in English or in German, we would like to have a translation. And for everyone who finished their education outside of Germany, you need this preliminary review documentation that it is issued by UniAssist. We will provide the link in the slides as well. Can you go further, Isabel? Yes. So for everyone who finished their education outside of Germany, you will need this preliminary review documentation. And mainly it is the UniAssist will look at your documents and say, yes, these are valid documents. You can apply with these documents for the University of Potsdam. And here is the link with the extra information for the website of UniAssist. And then you have the application page of our university. So after getting your VBT from UniAssist saying that, yes, your documents are correct and they are original and they are valid, then you go to our portal of the University of Potsdam where you start your application. And it's very important that we always take the intake is for winter term semester, and winter semester starts around October the 1st. It might change slightly from every year, but usually this is the time. And we have only, as I said, winter intake. And you can have more information about the program in general in our IECL webpage. And every student must pay a semester fee. It's around 300 euros, more or less, every semester. This means twice a year, and it covers a public transportation card, which is very useful, especially if you are living, for example, in Berlin and coming to the university here in Potsdam, and it allows you to freely use all the public transportations around. And it's important, very important, to apply as soon as possible, because although the deadline is the 15th of August, it would be very, very late, because if you think that you should be in Germany at even earlier than the 1st of October, then 15th of August is probably late, because then many people need visa, many people need some time to fulfill the requirements, and finding housing and accommodation, all these things. So our advice is, if you decide to apply, just try to apply as soon as possible. And when you get these slides, or now, you can scan this QR code. It's going to take you to our homepage. Otherwise, you can ask any question at our IECL office at University of Potsdam, and we will do our best to answer you as quick as possible. Thank you very much.
May I add one thing with respect to the application, right? If you apply early, you will also be admitted early. So we do this on a rolling basis. So in fact, we have now already admitted students to the program, and they can now start, right, to look for all the things that they have to look for. So that's really a recommendation, not just for us, but for every program you are applying to.
Great. Then I thank both of you for the presentation and the insights. We actually already have some questions, which is great, and I'm happy that the interest or the questions are coming right now. By the way, the links that you were mentioning are all in chat. Yeah, you are very welcome to check them now or on Monday when you will correctly receive the presentation. Also about, it was mentioned VPD and UniAssist, and I know that this is sometimes challenging topic for some students. So we have also on Monday a webinar, 1 whole hour about UniAssist, in detail about VPD, how you can upload your documents, where you should find things, because we show this live demo of UniAssist, how to register, etc. In case you need to attend this or learn more about that, feel free to join. If not, the link that was shared by our guest is also in chat, and also articles about UniAssist are also in chat. Now let me then invite our second guest, Dr. 𝘱𝘢𝘳𝘵𝘪𝘯𝘨, who will talk about Master in Science in Cognitive Science from Osnabrück University. Location and program facts are on the slide, and then more information in the next 15 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much, Nino, for the invitation. I quickly try to share my screen. Short moment. Okay. I hope it does work now, because it asked me to.
No rush between. I think it's now working. Yeah.
Okay. Oddly, okay. So as Nino already introduced, my name is 𝘱𝘢𝘪𝘳𝘁. I'm the program coordinator of the Cognitive Science program at Osnabrück University. I'm also the Dean of Studies of the program. And I'd like to present to you a little bit about what we do here. I will present mainly the Cognitive Science Master's program and the Cognitive Computing Master's program, but we also have a bachelor's program in Cognitive Science and a PhD program. So for students on those levels, there are also options. But here, the focus is going to be on the master's programs. Here are a few questions that we tackle in the context of cognitive science. So starting with questions like, how do large language models like ChatGPT work? How does artificial intelligence influence our lives? Do we have free will? What are the brain mechanisms underlying learning? Why is it that we dream? How do smartphones recognize faces? How can we use machine learning to understand how the brain works? How does artificial intelligence, how can we make artificial intelligence creative? How do we understand what was meant but not explicitly said in certain cases? or what are the cognitive capacities of non-human animals like apes and crows or other animals like this. Maybe also what are the cognitive capacities of plants. So there is a lot of different questions that are addressed within the cognitive science program. And if there is a few of those questions that you think, well, I always wanted to learn about that, then probably cognitive science is for you. So at Osnabrück University, we do a lot of things, starting from doing lots of experiments in virtual reality. We also have a sleep lab where we record EEG while people sleep and dream, especially one of our colleagues is interested in lucid dreaming. We do a lot of AI stuff to, on the one hand side, build artificial cognitive systems, but we also do a lot of AI in order to understand better how biological cognitive systems work. We have a work group that investigates the cognitive abilities of non-human animals, investigating monkeys and their behavior, like apes and their behavior in the wild. We do a lot of programming in the context of cognitive science, and there is also a lot of philosophical discussions. So there is a broad range of different things that we're doing at the Cognitive Science Department at Osnabrück University, which you might be interested in. Just a brief overview of the program's development or the history. The Cognitive Science program in Osnabrück is the oldest cognitive science program in Germany. We started out already before 1998 with other programs that were the predecessors of cognitive science, but in 1998, the cognitive science bachelor's program started. And then in the years after, 2001, 2002, we also introduced the Institute for Cognitive Science, the master's program, and the PhD program. And then moving on almost 2 decades, in 2019, we introduced the Cognitive Computing Master's Program. And only last year, we celebrated our 25th anniversary of cognitive science with Cognitive Science Space Day, where we had a lot of former students, interactions with students and people who formerly were here and now are either working in the industry or have become professors or and whatnot. Today we have around 500, a little bit more than 500 bachelor students and more than 300 master students. We have a rate of more than 50% of female students within the cognitive science program, which I find quite impressive given that there is a lot of technology stuff going on, and it's really great that we have so many female students interested in these things. We have almost a quarter or even more than a quarter of our students being international students from more than 40 states. So if you come from another country, you won't be the only student joining in. There is lots of colleagues from other countries, and we have about 12 professorships. I'm saying 12 plus because there is one extra professorship that is currently reinstated, and the corresponding research groups. We have further associated groups at other institutes at the University of Osnabrück, including the computer science department, the mathematics department, the biology department, the psychology department, and the philosophy department. And we have currently 2 research training groups with PhD students, one focusing on situated cognition, that is focusing on the influences of external factors on cognitive capacities, and there is one on computational cognition. So a rough overview over what happens here. Here is our main faculty, all the professors contributing to the cognitive science and cognitive computing programs, which are focusing on all kinds of different topics, from neuroscience via neuro-inspired technology and artificial intelligence and machine learning to linguistics and communication, as well as philosophy. So what you see here are the permanent faculty members. And then, of course, there is a whole bunch of more people who you're going to bump into and be discussing with during your studies if you get admitted to our program. So as you see, there is a lot going on. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the programs in detail. So in principle, those the 2 master's programs are all 120 credits, so usually 4 semesters, and are split up into 4 areas: a mandatory area, the so-called mandatory electives, where you can choose from different areas of cognitive science as you please, with some constraints, of course, but in general, you have a lot of freedom regarding your course selection. There is the free electives, where you basically can choose from other related disciplines as well. So you might want to take a couple extra courses from other departments related, or you might want to do a German language course and get accredited for that, and so on. And then there is the master thesis, which is usually done in the last semester, which is also worth 30 credits. So there is 90 credits in total regarding coursework, and then 30 credits for the thesis. This is the same as with the University of Potsdam, but that's kind of usual in German universities when it comes to the overall structure. One central part of the mandatory area is the so-called study project, which is a 1-year or 2-semester study project, which is worth 24 credits in total. And there you plan, set up, and run a full research project in cognitive science. And students of cognitive computing can do this as an individual project in collaboration with the company they work with. So cognitive computing is an in-service program for students working at companies. And there is these options for collaboration between the company and our university. But the cognitive science program is a regular program where everyone can attend, whether or not they work in the industry. Recent example projects regarding those study projects were things like, one was called, that we had recently, emergent behaviors in a multi-agent system with reinforcement learning, where the idea was to train simulated agents to interact with each other in a simulated environment using an artificial language, and see what kinds of behaviors emerge from this structure. We had one on spatial navigation supported by artificial intelligence. We also had a data ethics outreach lab, where the focus was to look at how to communicate issues of data ethics to people in school. This was a project focusing mostly on a specific form of science to public procedures. So there is lots of different options, even in the mandatory area, to pick from, because you only need to pick one of those study projects, and there usually are 5 or 6 each semester that you can take or select from. In the mandatory electives, you then select courses to construct your own profile in at least 2 focus areas of cognitive science. And on the left-hand side, you see the focus areas as they are currently in place. This is artificial intelligence, linguistics and computational linguistics, neuroinformatics, computational neuroscience, cognitive psychology and cognitive neuropsychology, and philosophy for cognitive science. However, we are currently in the process of changing our regulations slightly, so there will be some changes until the winter term, and the structure will resemble more what you see on the right. So the focus will be more on those areas like topics in cognition in artificial systems, cognition in biological systems, and then conceptual and ethical topics in cognitive science. And if you look at, say, on the left-hand side, artificial intelligence, computational linguistics, and neuroinformatics, these focus more on understanding how to implement cognitive processes in artificial systems and build neuro-inspired technology, whereas like linguistics, and so the non-computational part of linguistics, and cognitive neuropsychology will be more focusing on understanding cognition in biological systems. And so you have those different focus areas. Since the regulations aren't yet in place fully, I can't tell you much more details, but with regard to the overall structure, there won't be many changes. Regarding the application, so what you need, of course, is a bachelor's degree in, so this is for cognitive science, a bachelor's degree in cognitive science or a related discipline. That could be, for example, computer science, psychology, neuroscience, linguistics, or philosophy. At best, you have a background in at least 2 areas of cognitive science. So maybe you have a bachelor's in, say, psychology, but you also took some extra courses in philosophy or linguistics or so, or might have focused on areas that broaden your background. Then you're going to be more likely to be accepted for the program, because in order to properly study the master's, you need to select 2 focus areas, and that's why you need a relatively broad background. When you apply, please indicate what background you bring with you, especially if you bring with you certain extracurricular courses, maybe on programming, machine learning, neuroscience, or something like that, that don't appear on your transcript. So if you write a short motivation letter why you want to switch to cognitive science from a different field, and provide us with further information what you did in addition to your studies. Maybe you also work at a company in a relevant field or something like that. That might still be useful for the admission committee to make their decision. So please make sure to make as clear as possible what you bring with you and what you would like to do with us, because whether you would like to do, say, neuroinformatics and AI, or whether you would like to do psychology and philosophy, the requirements will be quite different. And so we also need to know what you want to do in order to see whether your requirements meet those, whether your background meets those requirements. With regard to the cognitive computing program, this is, as I said, an in-service program. Again, you need a bachelor's degree with 180 credits in or more in cognitive science or a related discipline, focusing more on the more engineering or computer sciencey disciplines. So it could be computer science, computational linguistics. It could be some natural science or engineering discipline where you have a substantial amount of quantitative methods and computational methods. There are further credit requirements regarding your previous studies here that are listed in the admission regulations, which you find on our website. Note that the cognitive computing program is, as I said, an in-service program that is tailored for applicants working at companies based in Germany in the field of AI and machine learning. And there is a tuition fee other than with the cognitive science program, where you only have the standard fee of round about 350 euros. For cognitive computing, there is an extra tuition fee of 5,000 euros per semester, which is usually paid by the company sending the student. And in turn, the student can do their study project and their thesis, which is almost half their program, in collaboration with the company. And so both we and the company benefit from the collaboration, and those study projects and thesis projects will be co-supervised by our experts in the field, by our professors, who then will individually work with you and your company to come up with a suitable project. For both master's programs, we have an English language proficiency requirement at level B2 or higher. German is not required, but of course, as always, it's very useful in everyday life, and there are also offerings for German courses by the university if you're interested. And in some cases, the admission committee will add further courses from our bachelor's program up to 30 credits, depending on what background you bring with you, that have to be taken within the first year to strengthen the interdisciplinary background of you, the student, basically. The deadline for international students is already June 15, so make sure to apply quickly if you want to apply. One note regarding prior background, and then I'm almost done. So we often have a lot of students applying with a background in clinical psychology who want to work clinically. The problem with this is we don't have much to offer for students in that regard. The other thing is students who come with a background in computer science, focusing mostly on web development and databases and these kinds of things. This is also something that isn't quite what we do. So you should bring some background in artificial intelligence and machine learning and be interested in that area of computer science if you come with a degree in computer science. Right, so two more slides, then I'm done. So if you want to hear more about the student perspective in cognitive science at Osnabrück University, you might get in touch with our cognitive science student mentoring team, comprised of these 4 students who are in part also international students. So feel free to write them an email if you have further questions about student life here and what the program is about from the perspective of students. And quick add, we also have a cognitive science student journal and a student podcast. So you can check out the webpage of the journal, where we properly publish works from students in a proper journal. So usually when you have coursework, this usually ends up in the drawer of the professor, or maybe on the hard drive of the professor, and is never read anymore. In Osnabrück, you can, if you write a nice term paper for a course, you can actually get that published in a peer-reviewed journal run by our Cognitive Science student journal team. And there is also a student-run podcast where they have lots of interviews with other students, with professors from here, and so on and so on. So check it out if you are interested. And that's it. We're looking forward to your application. And if you have any questions, I'm here for you to answer them.
Yeah, thank you so much. Another very interesting presentation. And as I said from the very beginning, today's session was super interesting. And you're lucky that I'm not competing with you right now to apply, because I already did my master's and my background is not that directly related. Anyways, then let us dedicate some time to the Q&A. First of all, thank you for answering already 12 questions I see in written, but I would still like to voice some of them, as the first things that came after 𝘱𝘢𝘪𝘥 mentioned that 15th of August, you should not wait until deadline. And then I think at least 3 questions simultaneously came. Is it first come, first served? Do you also send out the answers on rolling basis? I think Professor mentioned it, but if you don't mind, could you please repeat that once again?
Yes, so in Potsdam, we do this on a rolling basis. So if you apply early, you can be selected early and you will be informed early, and you can start everything you need to start. I guess it's the same for Osnabrück.
Yeah. So we are basically so the first meeting of the admission committee is going to be on Monday, and then every other week or so we will have another meeting where we look at the incoming applications. Because UNIUS usually doesn't provide all the applications to us by the deadline, but rather they come in later. And we put the deadline earlier this year because of all the problems with visa, to make sure that when the visa, when people get their feedback, then they still have some time to get their visa application going.
Mm-hmm. Then maybe I will ask question to Professor Hölzer. It's from Lina.
I'm not a professor, by the way.
Oh, by the way, yeah, doctor, sorry. Twice doctor. As students choose 2 specializations, I suppose the study groups are quite small. Also within those specializations, could you provide some specific examples of topics taught, like in artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so when I'm not quite sure whether the question was about those study projects or whether it was about general courses in certain focus areas. So it very much depends on the area in question. It's not like in every area there is exactly the same amount of students. So there are some courses that are rather large. There are other courses that are pretty small. This ranges from 10 people to 100 people, so it very much differs. We usually try to accept as many students for individual courses as we can possibly handle. But for AI, for example, I can give you a rough idea of what we offer, say, in the next semester. So there is gonna be, let me quickly have a look. There is gonna be a course on advanced natural language processing. There is a course on the connection between like using machine learning to understand animal communication. There is a course on AI and the web. There is a course on computer vision. There is one on explainability of large language models. There is one on deep learning, one on cognitive computational neuroscience and machine learning, courses on methods of artificial intelligence. There is a reading group on cognitive abilities in artificial systems and so on. So there is lots of stuff that we can offer.
Yeah, and group sizes are
Group
small.
sizes depend on the course from 10 to 100. It's hard to tell. It really depends on the area. So usually the more technical courses are usually have usually more students. The psychology courses are also often rather broad, because most of our international students either come from computer science or from psychology. And so the more computer sciencey and the more psychology focused areas are usually the ones where there are more students. But in general, it's really hard to tell a proper number.
Yeah, thank you. Now, another technical question and then more specific question to Zaher or Professor Wartenberger, just to finalize this topic with VPD and the deadline, because VPD also takes some time, usually 4 to 6 weeks. Is it possible, or would you also recommend applying students with the proof that they have applied for VPD, but they are still waiting for that? Or should they wait for the final UniAssist document and then apply to you directly?
I guess that I would wait, because anyhow, the university in Potsdam, you apply at the university then at the Studienplatzportal, and I think they wouldn't hand it over to us as long as the VPD is not fulfilled. So as the hard criteria are not fulfilled, so to say.
Okay.
That's what I guess. But what in my understanding, this VPD is valid for all over Germany, so you can apply for it now and you could also use it next year. That's what I guess. I'm not 100% sure, but you could do it, so you could save some time, so to say.
Yeah, correct.
And just to add, the same applies to English knowledge and skills as well. So we don't prove that as admission committee. So it's handled by the university. So you need to have this proof, and so that your application comes to us.
Okay, thank you. Then this is a question to both programs, but let me start with you, since you are already were answering the question. You didn't mention it, but do your study programs expect any specific grades in particular course from the bachelor's? Question for all speakers. Do you need, for example, I don't know, A+ in, I don't know, statistics or something similar? No, just to meet minimum GPA, as I guess, and to have the courses or relevant background to apply.
Yes, and maybe to explain this, what a credit point in Germany is roughly 30 hours of coursework. So if we want you to have 3 credit points in statistics, that means you have 90 hours statistics classes, so to say. You can, so to say, calculate how much it is. And in one semester, so in 6 months, you usually earn 30 credit points. So you get an idea on what 3 credit points mean. And I guess that's similar for Osnabrück. Sometimes they calculate with 28 or with 30 hours, but it's roughly the same. Yeah, but the grades in our program doesn't matter, but you need to have passed the class, of course.
Yeah. maybe so basically the same holds for Osnabrück. So there is no particular grades required, but this doesn't mean that we can admit every student who satisfies the minimum requirements, but we have to make a selection in the admission committee regarding which students we can take up. So roughly, to have a rough estimate, we have usually around 300 students applying, and we can take up around about 50 or so every semester. So that's kind of the percentage. We usually accept more, but then of course students often apply to many universities, and then only a subset of those who get admitted will actually take the program. So that's why there will be more admitted people, but like in the end it's usually like 50 out of 300 that.
Thank you. Another question is for Potsdam. What are the programming languages most heavily used for the program?
In Potsdam, I guess, this may be a question to Zahir. You're not in the ICL program. You're not having a real programming language class. So, but if so, it's mainly Python, I guess. But Zahir, you can maybe comment on this, because Zahir is the student coordinator of the ICL program, but he's studying in a different program with more.
Yeah, so I study in cognitive system. That's a separate program we're not talking about right now, and there you mainly focus on Python. But for the IECL program, maybe the only programming language you will encounter is R for statistical analysis. So this is what we will be mainly learning, or actually not learning, let's say improving your knowledge, because you should have done already some statistics. And most of the time it's taught through R Studio and statistical analysis. It's the R language.
Okay, thank you. There was a general question, I guess, about the transfer students that Dr. Hölzer already answered, but I would like to also mention it once again. Do you happen to accept transfer students? For example, if somebody is already has started doing master at his or her home country and would like to transfer, would you advise transferring or applying from the beginning? And if transfer is possible, then can the ECTS be recognized in case, of course, it meets your curriculums?
Yeah, should I repeat my answer? Okay, so in principle, it's possible to get accredited for some credits from a master's program. There are some constraints to that. So sometimes there are cases where the basic requirements of programs at different countries are only met when people do like a bachelor's and master's in their country. So this is so there are those requirements are a little bit tricky. So there are some cases where only the bachelor and the master's together are the prerequisite for getting accepted. But usually, if the bachelor's program meets the same standards as European programs, then it will in principle be possible to get accredited for other relevant courses you did in your master's program. The important thing is always, since the master's program is a consecutive program, you can't be accredited for courses that you have already been gotten accredited for in your previous program on which the master's builds upon. But if it's separate, then there is no issue.
Yes, I agree, but usually you would start in the first semester, because we can only admit you in October to the first or to the third semester, not to the second. So in the third semester, you would need to have 60 credit points that we could acknowledge, and this is highly unlikely. So it really never happens, or maybe once in 5 years or so. So usually you would start in the first semester, but we could recognize a few of your classes so you can study a bit faster than the others, or you have a little less workload, so to say.
So at Potsdam, you only accept students in the winter term, right?
Yes.
In Osnabrück, for the master's program, you can apply both in the winter and in the summer term. So otherwise, the same regulations hold. So also, like if you start in the winter, it can either be first semester or third semester. If you start in the summer, then it will be second or fourth semester. But like usually, if you are already in the fourth semester, then you probably won't switch anymore. I mean, it might happen, but it's probably pretty unusual. But in principle, sure, you can get in touch with me. I can have a look at what you did, whether it's relevant, and but those things can also be done at the point once you have already applied, and we figure out like what can be accredited and what can't.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And then final question before we finalize is about PhD. And I was actually surprised that almost the very first question that came in was about PhD options, possibilities. Can one continue at your universities to do a PhD? How likely it is, and how frequently it's selected? Professor 𝘱𝘕𝘓𝘕𝘓 already addressed it also in presentation and in Q&A. I see it, but if you still don't mind, could you please say how it's structured? Is it very likely that people apply to a PhD right after, and there is a special program so they can get some better position to be accepted or so?
So my answer would be, if your statistics competences are really good, and if you take the what we offer in Potsdam, right, with the really excellent statistics professors, then you will get a PhD position somewhere, not necessarily in Potsdam, but maybe it's also good, right, to change, maybe go to Osnabrück or to go to another town in Europe or in the US or somewhere else. And this is not unlikely. Of course, you need to have good grades, right? Students who have very low grades in all the subject matter, they wouldn't probably go get a PhD. And then usually what we want to have in our department is funded PhD positions. So the PhD students should get money for doing the PhD. And this is, so to say, this restricting thing. If we have third-party funding or open positions for PhDs, then we can hire PhDs. If we don't have them, you can go somewhere else. But yeah, the chances are high, I guess.
Yeah, so for Osnabrück, I can't speak for the linguistics department, but what I can do is to say, well, you can, of course, study cognitive science with a focus on linguistics or computational linguistics, and then do a PhD afterwards in that area. So either here or somewhere else. Of course, it's always so the most important thing for finding a PhD position is getting to know people among the professors, get them to know you, and then that might help. And if you show that you are a proficient student in that area during your master's, and if there are positions available, maybe within the research training groups or something like that, of course, there might be a good opportunity to then move on to a PhD at the same institution if the professors already know you. But of course, there is usually professors of different departments at different universities also know each other. So oftentimes there might be some suggestions by your supervisors of your master thesis, for example, if they say, well, that was a great project, maybe apply to these and those other universities, this might be a good thing. So it's always about communicating a lot and doing good work.
Great. Then thank you very much for your advices, suggestions, and at least for me, I see only one open question which was also answered in I think it should
quickly
say,
answer it.
yeah. Okay, I think it should be electives, I guess. And then, yeah, you can take over here. Then I would like to thank everybody for voice meeting. Yeah, you, dear attendee, if you joined later, you can only type your questions in Q&A, and then I will be your voice here today. But unfortunately, it's already a bit late because the session is almost done. And I want to say thanks to everybody for joining. Of course, our guests for having time to present and to answer so many questions. Dear attendees, I thank you for your interest, for being here, and I wish you luck in your applications.